As of Friday, March 4th, the highly anticipated film The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson as the young Bruce Wayne and Zoe Kravitz as Selina Kyle, made its debut. As much as it's an issue that DC Comics and Warner Bros. Is milking Batman's story, highlighted in my previous video titled DC and WB has oversaturated us with Batman content, which I'll link in the description if you're interested in having that conversation. Otherwise, The Batman is a certified banger, and literally in my opinion is now the best Batman live action adaptation throughout cinematic history. In this video, I wanted to give my thoughts on the movie for those who wanted to compare their thoughts after seeing it, for those who are on the fence, or those who are opposed to seeing it for exhaustion of Batman solo live action portrayals. Let's get it. Yo. So like a normal moviegoer, I saw The Batman on the night of the debut. I don't have this special privilege of being invited to pre-screenings, more than likely because I don't really do movie reviews on my channel. But besides that point, I'm here to tell you why The Batman is a must-see or you need to put it on your to-do list. I'm gonna go over the typical, like story, performances, visuals, sound, and action. My plan is to be spoiler-free, but we'll go over into some details that could be considered spoiler at the final quarter of this video. Now without further ado, first things first, I think I have to commend all the actors in this film for their performance in embodying their roles. Even though there were some titular characters who were identity swapped, or didn't visually meet the standards for their characters like in the comics, the actors performed so well that these factors became an afterthought. Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon was on point, embodying the by-the-book good apple cop, and most important, displaying his budding relationship with Batman in order to safeguard Gotham successfully. Zoe Kravitz's performance was straight out the comics as Selina. Her alluring demeanor towards those she was enamored with, her fierceness towards those she found as a threat. Most important, she nailed her ability to manipulate men in situations to her advantage. Andy Serkis was possibly the most active I've ever seen Alfred in any live-action performance, and you could tell he was not one to be taken lightly, even though he serves the Waynes. John Turturro as Carmine Falcone was well done and came off as a very smooth and even-keeled version of the mob boss. Colin Farrell as Penguin, surprisingly, is my favorite performance in the film. Even though he is taller than the true depiction of Cobblepot in the comics, his attitude was of someone who is smaller in stature, capturing the sarcastic and comedic nature of the Penguin while still showing that he is a lethal threat. Paul Dano, while not the greatest visual representation of the Riddler, he captured the characteristics of Edward Nygma, being socially awkward and speaking in riddles. Finally, Robert Pattinson embodies an early career Batman well, showing his eagerness to be tough on crime and instill fear in the local criminals of Gotham. But I can't say I was a huge fan of how he portrayed the Bruce Wayne persona, because he was way too broody for my taste, to the point where there was no difference between how he acted under the mask and went off. The Gotham we got in this film was very dark and gritty to the point that even during the day it was very gray and grim. I recall seeing some sunlight maybe twice. I was slightly disappointed with the variety of settings, but I think the limited amount of places we were taken to fit the mood of the storytelling, so we'll give that a pass. Everything about the visual says noir, and everything was in grayscale. Hue was used limitedly and as a way to indicate certain atmospheres when a character is in the scene. For instance, the color red ironically was associated with Batman, and green, well, obviously for the Riddler. Blue was used excessively when there was a political tone. I don't believe any CGI was used like that, but I can tell a lot was put into the costume designs. Batman's suit was the most tactical out of any live-action depiction, even more than Christian Bale and Batfleck's suits. Very reminiscent of the suit from Arkham Origins, with a lot of moving parts and visible gear. The Catwoman attire was really clever, consisting of a skin-tight bodysuit and a burglar mask shaped like cat ears. The Riddler suit was not my favorite, consisting of a trench coat and a unique mask that looked stitched together with some goggles. It's not the traditional look for the Riddler, but I understand what they were trying to incorporate from the comics, which I'll elaborate more in the story section later. The most impressive visual I saw was the prosthetic to make Colin Farrell look like a totally different person. I could not believe that was him. When I told my lady that it was Colin playing Penguin, she didn't believe me, and he didn't look like he was wearing a fat suit either. The soundtrack for the film, labeled The Water Tower by Michael Giacchino, is very intentional. It's deep, it's dark, and it's imposing. The more I listened to the main theme, I started to hear the classic Batman animated series mixed in with the Imperial March, which is Darth Vader's theme. It brings back so much nostalgia from two eras that impacted my childhood, and I see that this composer gets it. The theme matches the tone of the type of Batman we have on hand and how he impacts the atmosphere he steps in, along with how they use Nirvana's Something in the Way to meld with the themes is done so well. There were even times where it played in a cappella when Bruce Wayne's persona is active. Aside from the music, the regular sound ramps the intensity of certain scenes. Like for instance, everywhere Batman walks, his boots thump and echo while he lurks in the darkness to scare criminals or ramp up the effect of when he enters a crime scene filled with law enforcement. A goon's beard. I thought Batfleck had it on lock when it came to Batman action, but I have to say for sure the action scenes in this film have surpassed it. From the amount of gunfire he is exposed to hand-to-hand combat, to car chases, this movie is packed with action from beginning to end. Again, this is the most impressed I have been when it came to good martial arts scenes. Anyone who knows me knows I am super critical of horrible fight scenes. Anyone who is a martial artist can attest to this. It's just a habit of ours to be nitpicky when it comes to combat. They've done an excellent job to not make the action and fight scenes seem scripted. The fights look fluid and organic, with barely any cuts as if they were happening in real time and the camera is moving with Batman. I was even impressed with how good the fight scenes with Catwoman were. Props to the action team for this, man. Now here's where things got dicey for me, and some things I'll talk about here may be considered spoiler territory. If you don't want to hear anything heavy or haven't seen the film yet and plan too soon, please skip to the time displayed. Alright, you've been warned. As far as the story goes, in my perspective it was good and satisfactory, but there were little nitpicks I had that hindered it from being perfect. This is a year 2 Batman. His reputation is preceding him in the streets, so now criminals are really weary of their actions. Gordon is the only cop who trusts him, and he's still trying to get his emotions in check. Overall, I think I picked up most of the influences used to create this film, and to me, the plot felt like a meld of 3 great Batman storylines, 2 comic runs, Batman Year 1, Batman Hush, and a video game by Rocksteady, Batman Arkham Origins. The influences of Batman Year 1 have to do with the main world building, where Batman is in a fledgling career of crime fighting. He first comes into contact with Selina before she assumes the persona of Catwoman, started his friendship with Gordon working together to solve crimes, who is still a lieutenant and not yet assumed the rank of commissioner of the GCPD. Where the influences of Arkham Origins is similar to Year 1. Batman is still in the beginning of his crime fighting career and has yet to find his footing on how to take on crime in Gotham. He's really aggressive. His suit is mechanized and tactical. His tech is still in experimental stages and the Batcave is not yet complete. Most importantly, he has huge anger issues. Where the movie takes influence from Hush, mainly has to do with our main villain, the Riddler, which is why in the movie the Riddler does not look like the classic with the 3-piece suit, hat, and walking cane. Instead, he wears a trench coat and covers his face like done in the comic Hush. Also how Hush was committing murders and uncovering secrets to the Wayne family and holding a grudge against Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne. The way that they melded all 3 of the storylines to give us a live-action depiction of the Batman was really fantastic. Only issues I had with the story was with Bruce Wayne's extra brooding attitude, which I feel should have made a bit lighter in order to distinguish between how he acts as the Batman and as Bruce Wayne. Second, I thought the relationship between Batman and Selina moved way too fast, and there was a critical twist about Selina's backstory I felt was unnecessary. I'm sure you will see what I mean when you watch the movie. But otherwise, the story was well fleshed out and all the critical factors came together to give us a great origin story. So all in all, this was a very good film but not a perfect masterpiece. I would advise anyone who is a Batman fan, a comic reader, and lover of cinema to go watch The Batman. This is definitely one of the films that I would watch multiple times because it's so entertaining and fleshed out. So will you be checking out The Batman? If you have already seen it, what are your thoughts? Is it yay or nay? Let me know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content coming down the pipeline. You know the vibes. It's Kaizoku Sleven. Appreciate you.